Hi everybody. Today is World Oceans Day and I'm Ellen Tout, Psychologies Eco-Living Editor, and I've been interviewing people all day who are campaigning and writing books and producing brilliant products that help us to tackle the plastic problem in oceans and other problems facing our seas and the planet. So my next guest is Ella, who is an activist and environmentalist, and she's absolutely amazing. She started a campaign about plastic-free period products, and it now has over 200,000 signatures. She has rallied supermarkets and brands and got them to change the way that they view plastic in our period products, and she's absolutely incredible. So she should be joining me any second now. I'm just waiting for her request. Hello to everybody who's joining. If you have any questions, then please pop them in there. So I think Ella's just joined and she should be coming across in a second. And just waiting. Hi to everybody. Hi Ella.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yes.
Need to chat to you.
Thank you so
Um,
much for having me on today.
oh, thank you for joining us. So I thought to start, you could just tell everybody a bit about your campaign and how you started it and what made you so passionate about plastics in period products and trying to tackle it.
Of course, yeah. So before I started this campaign, which has taken over my life, I
Yeah.
was a postal worker for Royal Mail, and I was walking the streets doing my delivery, and I just began to see how much we were throwing away on a weekly basis. And it really began to make me think, if this is just a few streets, how is that looking on a national scale and even
Mm,
global? And it made me think about my own consumption. And I really didn't want to have that impact on the planet where all the stuff that I'm using right now is just somewhere on Earth and that's just how it's going to be. So I started to make switches in my everyday life, like using reusable water bottles instead of plastic ones and washable makeup wipes instead of disposable ones. And I was feeling super happy about the switches that I was making. I think it's such a positive step that we all do. But then my period started, and for the first time, I was like, I've not thought about this before, and there's so much plastic in it. I'd never considered this product because we're given them at such a young age and by brands at school, and that really engenders that brand buying um, from a young age. So we don't question what we're given, and that leads to a consumer cycle where we don't question. And I went online, I did some research, and I was really shocked to discover that these products contain up to 90% plastic.
yeah. It's
And
shocking.
because of that plastic content, I know it's crazy, isn't it? And we don't even think about this because the plastic pollution conversation is so dominated by bags, bottles, and straws that
Yeah.
that we don't talk about period products really. They don't get that airtime that they need to get. So they're used for 48 hours, and because of their plastic content, they take over 500 years to break down. That's over 7 times the average lifetime of the person using them.
Mm.
And when you think about that, it's surprising, isn't it? So
Yeah.
I spoke to a few people around me. I spoke to my family, my friends, and I thought that, other people would know about it too, but they didn't.
Yeah.
They reacted with the same surprise. And that really concerned me. So I was like, if we're all using them and we don't know, how can we really change what we're using?
Yeah.
So I went into a supermarket to get some alternative products and I looked up and down and there was no choice. It was either plastic or plastic.
Yeah.
Um, and that really frustrated me because if we haven't got that choice available on the shelf, how can we truly make a decision about what we buy? We
Yeah.
can't, can we? If it's not
No.
on there, how are we ever going to make it mainstream? So all of this together, I carried on with my job. I switched to eco-friendly period products, but it just kept eating away at me, the fact that we're using them for such a short amount of time, but they're lasting years and years, centuries. So I knew I had to do something, and I saw the success of the online petitions. So I took a stand against period plastic by starting my own. That was over 2 years ago now. It feels like so much has happened since then. So the campaign went viral very quickly and gained a lot of signatures. I think it went to about 100,000 in about 6 weeks. It completely turned my life upside down. Yeah, and I just kept going with it. I kept the persistence going. In the first year, brands were really not really engaging, but I kept coming back. They thought I would go away with their long emails and excuses, but it didn't work. And a mixture of my persistence, the thousands of supporters on the campaign, and the gaining momentum paid off. And that I've been having some great conversations with retailers and manufacturers as well about how they can remove plastic from their period products. So the campaign calls on 14 different decision makers to remove plastic from their period products. That includes pads, tampons, plastic applicators, wrappers, and packaging. So it's like all of the product. It's not just the plastic applicators, but that is one step that they can take. One of the first ones that they can take towards going plastic free, because it's such an easy one to start. So far it's saved over 17 tons of plastic annually from the switches that 3 retailers have made to stopping the production of their plastic tampon applicators, which is fantastic. And we're starting to see more happening too in the industry, which is brilliant.
Yeah, I think it's incredible. When you first started it, did you ever expect that it would gain such momentum? And I mean, I looked up earlier and it had over 200,000 signatures, and you've achieved such big things. It's amazing.
Thank you so much. No, I never expected it to have this impact, grow this far. I started it on a whim. I knew that there was something wrong. Nobody was talking about it. I knew that something had to change, not only to address the issue at source with these manufacturers, but also to raise massive awareness to everyone. And no, I never expected it, but I'm so empowered by everyone that continues to sign and get involved. It's just really, I never expected it. No,
it's brilliant. For people who are watching and might not know, what are the alternatives out there that they could go and buy that don't contain plastic?
Yes, so there are so many eco-friendly alternatives now. I mean, some have been making them since the 80s, so it just goes to show that there's no excuse not to remove plastic from these products. So there are eco-friendly alternatives to your everyday conventional products like tampons, pads, and panty liners. And then there are reusable product choices like menstrual cups, cloth pads, period pants, and also reusable tampon applicators as well, which are great for people if they like that. Prefer a plastic applicator. I know some people prefer it for the ease of insertion, so that is definitely a good choice for those wanting to switch to a reusable alternative. And I also talk about all of this to decision makers too, because we really need that choice available on our shelves, whether it's eco-friendly pads, reusable products. We need it because not one choice is the right option for everyone. And it's such a personal choice with what you use. Like a menstrual cup might be perfect for somebody, but not somebody else. So it does need to be accessible everywhere.
Yeah. Where could people find these if I know they're obviously available online, but are there certain shops that stock them now because of your work?
Yeah, there is. So at the start, this was one of the campaign asks, was to make eco-friendly options available in shops because there wasn't any available. Now I'm really happy that in part to the campaign work that I've been doing, supermarkets and retailers are now making them available in shops as well as reusable products. So I've got a eco period brand Bible on my website if people want to check that out. It's like an A to Z unsponsored, non-branded list of everything people can get and where they can get it.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it just makes it easier for everyone because there's nowhere to find out this information.
Yeah. So the alternatives as well, they're obviously better for the planet, but they're also often better for our health, I think. So what kind of things, as well as plastic, do you find in the traditional ones that maybe aren't in these more natural brands?
Yeah, so through the work that I've been doing, I mean, at the very start of this, I was really concerned about plastic and the environment, but then you become aware of so many other issues, and there are a lot surrounding periods. So one of the problems is that period product manufacturers don't have to disclose the ingredients in their products. So we don't truly know what is in them. Some brands do list the ingredients, others don't. So we also need research to show what impact these products are having on our bodies for such a long period of time. Because they contain plastic, we know that it has harmful impacts on the environment and even on mammals in the sea. So it is hard to say what is in them. Some of them say things like gel beads, or it's a bit ominous. Like it's not clear what these things are.
Okay. And what's kind of, if someone's listening to this and thinking, where do I start with trying to reduce my plastic, or with, what's kind of like one tip that you'd say to them, how they can start making simple, manageable changes in their life? What would you suggest?
I'd start by switching the things that you already use. So often we're said, like people say, buy this, buy that. But there's a lot around us that we don't use, that we can simply use. Like, don't throw things out just to buy something that's deemed eco-friendly, because it's definitely more eco-friendly to use what you've already got. I'd suggest things like the simpler things like plastic bottles and washable makeup wipes, the things in our lives that have become so convenience led that when we actually switch, a lot of the time we're also saving a lot of money. So that was another big driving factor for me when I started reducing what I was using. I was like, this is saving me loads of money too. Like, it's a win-win for the environment and for me. And also, if you can support like your local shops too, like your zero waste shops. Another thing that I really, really have enjoyed switching to is a reusable razor, so like a metal razor too. And I found that really easy to use, because sometimes you're like, I'm going to really cut myself on that. They look a bit, but no, they're really easy to use. You just have to get used to it. A lot of the time it's just going back to what you would have used before.
Yeah. We've just had a question, which is, what can the government do to encourage more sustainable and plastic-free choices? What do you think? I think they should definitely be doing more, but is there anything that you
Definitely. They should be encouraging that. I think the problem is that a lot of the time eco-friendly choices are often more expensive, and that shouldn't be the case. We shouldn't be paying more for something that is eco-friendly. It should be the other way around. You should have to pay more for something that is harmful, or it simply shouldn't be sold. For me, one of the things that I've been doing is calling on governments to spend their period poverty funding, which makes period products freely available to pupils at schools, on eco-friendly products. So because we've got this money, it's better to simultaneously tackle the issue as well as the plastic crisis and protect the environment simultaneously. We know the impacts of plastic, so it's the right thing to do. So another thing I would definitely say is, contact your councils, contact your governments if you see something that they could be doing to either reduce plastic or, do something in a different way. Oftentimes we might think of a really good idea, and they simply haven't. So it's really good to raise that with them. What I've been doing at councils and governments has been going really well. Caerphilly Council were the first in the UK and world to go 100% eco-friendly with their period poverty funding.
That's
So it just goes to show that they do listen, and they were so passionate about it already. So they are definitely listening. So I would definitely say, I think government should be thinking about funding, the way that they're spending, what the long-term impacts of that spending. We should be looking also more at things like the single-use plastics ban. Currently, there are a few things that are added to it, but they relook at it every 8 years. To me, that should be looked at a lot more frequently, really. Should be really every year, so that we can continue adding products to it.
And you've also launched your own eco period box. How does that kind of tie in with all of this, and how could people donate to that and help set one up as well?
Yeah, so something I became aware of through this campaigning that I've been doing is period poverty, and the fact that so many people are wrongly going through not being able to go to school, missing out on their education because of their period, because they can't afford these products. So through the fantastic work of campaigners and individuals like Anika George and the Red Box Project, that's how I found out about the issue. I really wanted to tackle it in my own way, by giving eco-friendly products to those in poverty, because not only is it tackling it in a way that's planet friendly and people friendly, because they're better for people as well, it's also giving those people a choice, and that's really important, because they shouldn't not have a choice because of the position that they're in, which really isn't their fault. So I set it up to encourage everyone to donate eco-friendly period products, and the boxes have been in a few different shops around the UK and Ireland, and I recently partnered with the Ethical Superstore, and we raised over £14,000 worth of products, which was amazing. Brilliant. It went really well. But if you want to set one up in your local area, please do get in touch or speak to one of your local health food shops, because you can encourage them to put one in store, and then people can pop it in. Okay,
that's brilliant. You've obviously been so busy doing so many amazing different things. You're getting such nice comments. How have you kind of kept yourself motivated? Like, have you managed to keep going with this? Like, it's amazing for one person to achieve so much.
I think I'm just so hungry for change. I'm so passionate about doing the right thing for people and the planet, and I think it's so wrong that these brands and companies are getting away with what they're getting away with. I recently watched the story of plastic, and it just goes to show how much of an issue this is. I've also recently read The Future We Choose by Christiana Figueres, and that's really empowering me much more to do so much more as well. I started out as a postal worker, but the support of the thousands of people, individuals and groups from all over the globe has been what's empowered me to continue. It shows that people power works when companies that weren't talking to you before are offering you, meetings and making really exciting changes and really engaging in the conversation. And every one of them is different, but I definitely think people think like, oh, you get that like David and Goliath moment with these brands, but I don't feel anxious or nervous when I meet them, because at the end of the day, the environment is more important than they are to me. I have nothing to lose, and that's what I would encourage everyone to do, is if you have something that you're passionate about, raise your voice and stand up against it, because we have nothing to lose by raising our voices and demanding change from these global companies.
Yeah. We've had another question, which is, how can we hold those companies to account and encourage them to change? As a consumer, what do you think people can do?
So as a consumer, we can, of course, one of the first things we can do is spend differently. Yeah. So we're having a direct impact on the money that is getting towards them. When they start to see that they're losing money, they will, they'll be like, oh, we've got to do something. But also, using social media is such a fantastic way of engaging with these brands. Play them off against each other, say, oh, such and such is doing this, why aren't you? And then they will be like, oh, we've got to engage with this or do something. And also talking to the people around you as well about these issues, because there are so many people that aren't aware about the plastic in period products, but also things like tea bags. I became aware of that very recently. So it's talking about it with the people around you that leads to behaviour change too, which is really powerful.
Yeah. Do you think people are talking about, straws and getting a coffee cup, but still period products are kind of spoken about less? Do you think there's still people don't necessarily know how to talk about it, or they're just not aware of it maybe? What do you find when you
I think that it's definitely growing. I think more and more people are starting to become aware of it, and that's due to, the campaign has raised the issue to so many people. But also, there's loads of really great charities and NGOs that are starting to talk about it as well. And of course, that is spreading awareness on huge platforms, which is what we need. So I think sometimes when we discuss periods, if you just go in from the period angle, people might be like, they might not know what to say. But when you talk about the environmental impact, or you talk about period poverty, that makes it such an easier topic to talk about. And then they talk about the wider ranges of issues surrounding that too. So it's definitely a way in to discuss it. We don't talk about this enough. We don't get enough education at schools. We're giving branded products. It all creates that stigma, and the language that we use is really important as well.
Definitely. Maybe you could just explain, we didn't really cover it, kind of if you do flash a tampon, for example, or if you're using a pad with plastic in, what's kind of the life cycle of that, like what actually happens to it?
Yeah, so when you've got your product, like you're at the using point. So obviously in most bathrooms there are things called sanitary bins. I don't like the term, but that's what they're called. They, if you put it into there, they will either go to landfill or be incinerated. But there are a lot of people that flush them down toilets. Now, again, this goes back to the lack of education. I myself wasn't told at school not to flush them. I'm guilty of flushing in the past when I was a teenager. That's changed now. But 2.5 million tampons, 1.4 million pads, and 700,000 panty liners are flushed down UK toilets each day. That's just the UK. Yeah, every day. So they're getting into the sewerage system, and then they can't capture it all. So from there, it then goes into our waterways and the wider environment, into the sea, on our beaches. So they're the 5th most common item found on Europe's beaches, which not many people know. So they are turning up in a lot of places. They're in the top 19 most found on US beaches. It really is a global issue, but when they get into the environment, it is a big problem because of the nature of these products. They're made, they've got plastic fibres, plastic content, that's then breaking down into microplastics and fibres and entering our food chain from the bottom up, which is really concerning because obviously then for some it's getting into the food chain.
Yeah. And if you were,
for example, these were found on one beach in the UK, from one beach, So it just goes to show where they're ending up as well. So there have been some turning up on beaches in Scotland and Cornwall that aren't like any other branded ones in the UK. So I've been looking back at where they are coming from, and the brands that sell them are based in the US. So they're travelling across the ocean to UK beaches too. So it just goes to show, that once they get into the ocean, they can end up anywhere.
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it? But I think,
Yeah,
like
it
you
is
say,
really scary. Yeah. It
it comes
connects you
down.
to the problem.
Yeah, I think it does kind of come down, like you say, to maybe people not knowing, or
Yeah.
also still the
There's so
stigma.
many things that feed into it. There's so many problems surrounding periods. There's
Mm,
poverty. Um, that there's lack of awareness to the avoidable environmental impacts. Uh,
yeah,
you know, there's just so much that doesn't get spoken about, but it's changing, which is really, really fantastic. Where I think, we're starting to see more and more engaging in the issue and starting conversations with their peers. So that's good.
that's great. Yeah. We had one question asking, what are cups made of if you bought one? Like, are they,
Mm,
obviously they tend to last for around 10 years, so they're better in that
yeah.
sense, but what would you recommend?
So most menstrual cups are made from medical grade silicone. So, I mean, when you think about it, if you're using it for 10 years, um, I would say that it's definitely a lot better
Yeah.
than if you wanted to go for that. That is a really good option because you're using it over 10 years. It works out at about 16 pence per cycle over that 10-year period, which
Mm,
is really, really cheap when you think about it. It's just that initial cost that can put
mm,
people off.
yeah.
So there are loads of different brands of menstrual cups, but they are really good for people that can use them. Some people
Mm,
can't use them just because they're not the right option for them, but those that can get on with them really well. So I would definitely recommend trying them if you're into like tampons, if you're into
mm.
insertable products, then yeah, I'd definitely say to try them.
Thank you. Someone had commented about microplastics. We did a whole interview about that this afternoon, but I don't know. You could kind of touch on it if you wanted to, about how, everything effectively, if it's going to enter the ocean, it's going to break down and it's going to produce smaller
Yeah,
pieces, isn't it?
yeah, like you said, but it's so widespread, and I mean that they're found everywhere now, aren't they? It's such a global, again, a global issue. It's ending up in our waterways. I think they're trying, researchers and scientists is trying to find out whether it through um, insects, whether it travels through insects into mammals when they're eaten as well. There's a lot of research to be done around it for sure.
Yeah, it's
It's, I mean,
amazing.
it's a huge problem. Yeah,
Mm,
I was so surprised when I found out about it, and there's so much that comes from our washing machines as well, which is one that really shocked me. I never thought about that. They really should all be fitted with a filter. That should
yeah,
be a standard, an industry
mm,
standard for sure.
yeah. It should, shouldn't it? I think
Yeah,
once you realise there's a lot, isn't there? But definitely every small change that people can make really, really helps, I think.
yeah, definitely. Every step that we take is a positive step. You know, you're engaging with the problem, you're tackling it on your own where you can. And the problem is that we do need collective action. We need action from governments, we need action from manufacturers, and we need action from consumers and individuals to make this effective, because we can't just have one side doing everything.
Yeah,
A lot of people put the blame on the consumer, but we need that action at all levels to have
yeah,
to have the impact that we want it to have, for a better
yeah,
world.
yeah. I think definitely consumers have got a lot of power, but it's not just,
Yeah,
it's down to
yeah.
everybody, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, it's so liberating though when you start to think and make these switches. It is really liberating. Like, you see how much consumerism and marketing there is, and how much effort brands put into that language. You really begin to
Mm,
notice it, and I feel like once you're out of that bubble, it is really liberating. You feel almost free out of
yeah,
that cycle.
yeah. I definitely get what you mean about that. And once you
Do
start
you know
kind
what I
of
mean? Yeah, yeah.
thinking about things in a different way,
Yeah, it's a total different perspective on it, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, I think we've covered everything. Is there anything else that you think would be really good to mention?
Just if people want to get involved with the campaign, please do sign it. It's www.change.org/plastic-free periods. There is a questionnaire on there at the moment, which would be great if you could answer. I'm going to be taking it back to government and decision makers to make informed informed decisions on what they're going to be doing going forward. That's like language and packaging, a lot more things. Also, please do raise the conversation with the people around you, because there are so many that are unaware that their period products that they're using contain plastic. When I found out, I was horrified. I've always cared about the environment. If I had known sooner, then I would have changed my behaviour. And yeah, please just sign the petition, get involved online. And yeah, just do what you're passionate for. And not enough of us do it. I think, a lot of us think that somebody else will do something about it. Yeah. And that's what I thought when I was walking those streets as a postal worker. I thought somebody else will do something about this, but it just kept getting on my nerves, and I never thought that I would be talking about periods for the next over 2 years. But here we are. It was the right thing to do. Find your passion, and it's changed my life for the better. I never thought I would ever be able to do something like this, but it just goes to show how much of a difference individuals can make, and we all can make a difference. We really can. Like, don't think that you can't, because you can.
I think we should end on that note, because that's really and it's so true. Like, if you had have never started that, people might still not be talking about it in as much of a way. Yeah, definitely. We've all got the power to even make small changes in our local area, or by talking to people. Get
involved with like your local council, local groups, speak to people about these issues, plant more trees, divest, change who you bank with. That's something I've recently done that's really easy to do, that's having a good impact over time too.
Yeah, someone's commented saying, wouldn't it be amazing if eco-friendly products were available for free? That would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah, we need to tackle all these issues, and everything going forward needs to be thought about on all levels to make it the most effective it can be, without having the environmental impacts and social impact, like negative social impacts as well.
Yeah, maybe one day we'll get there.
Yeah, maybe one day. Who knows what the future will look like.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for everyone who's been leaving such lovely comments. And thank you. It was really great to chat to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's been great.
Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
So thank you to everyone for all of your lovely comments. I'm going to pop this interview up with all of the others in the Psychologies feed now. For the person who commented, there's one there from this afternoon about microplastics, and you can catch up on all of our other World Ocean Days videos there as well. Thank you for watching. Okay, bye.